afternoon. My name is Lidia Stępińska-Ustasiak, and today I have the pleasure to represent the Polish Chamber of Commerce for Electronics and Telecommunications and facilitate today's discussion. Welcome to all attendees of FG Time, online and on-site. And let me start with the brief introduction of our today's panelists. I will do that in alphabetical order. Creelman, Public Policy Manager at the European Telecommunications Network Operators Association in Brussels. Justyna Duszyńska, Coordinator of Digital Projects at Łukasiewicz Research Network. Jochen Reinschmidt, Head of Innovation Policy, ZWEI, Germany's Electro and Digital Industry Association, and Justyna Romanowska, Digital Ambassador, representative of Poland in Digital Diplomacy Network in Brussels. The intention of this panel is to bring together representatives of the private sector, science, administration and policymakers who will discuss the importance of the involvement of all stakeholders in legislative processes at the EU level, different kinds and tools that can be used to address contemporary policy challenges, and the role of accurate technology assessment. And currently there are at least two important transitions influencing the European market. Digitization, additionally accelerated during the pandemic, and the greening of the economy. These transitions are mutually reinforcing. So my first question is, what does the private sector expect from policymakers in the perspective of upcoming regulations, and how will it contribute to improving mutual understanding of potential consequences and desired results? And I would like to ask for the first answer, Creelman from ETNO.
Thank you very much, Lydia. And a quick word that ETNO represents the telecoms companies of Europe. Our members represent 70% of the investment in networks across Europe. And so it's from this point of view that we find ourselves in a particularly interesting space as the telecom sector when it comes to this twin transition. We're asking ourselves, not only how can we ensure that our networks themselves can be more environmentally friendly, how can we reduce our own environmental impact, but we're also asking how can our technologies and next generation connectivity, fiber and mobile, actually enable other solutions which contribute to making our economy and society more sustainable. On this point, I encourage you to look at our recently published annual State of Digital report, which was released last month, and it highlights some of the most important initiatives of our members in this area. First and foremost, our companies need the space to innovate, and this means well-drafted law, which doesn't limit the ability of high-tech European industries to develop technologies which are ever better performing in terms of sustainability. An example of this might be the use of artificial intelligence in our networks for various purposes, for example, predictive maintenance, but also for energy efficiency. And so this non-risky use of AI, which has so much potential in terms of reducing environmental impact, shouldn't be subject to heavy obligations, which don't necessarily make sense. So this is an important principle to define the way forward. And maybe just a word on what we need from policymakers. Well, the recipe isn't new. We look at the European Union's better regulation guidelines. These are still very much key today. The whole policy cycle from evaluation of old law to impact assessments of new law. This is crucial. And the second key, I think, on what we need for the twin transition is actually extensive and meaningful consultation with the industry, with the practitioners, and those who actually will develop and put into action the green and the digital transition.
Thank you. Johan, what is your view here?
Yeah, thanks a lot for the question. I think what Ross said is quite right. I think the policymakers and also industry share the same goals here for the twin transition. We all want a future worth living in. So, but if we want to achieve this transformation towards a climate neutral society, sustainable society, and the economy while maintaining the prosperity, and I think that's important, while maintaining prosperity, I think we need to use technology and also innovations, as well as an extensive electrification and digitization. So that's what we call an all-electric society. But we need for that we need a coherent and also ambitious framework. And for policymakers and industry, need an open and honest dialogue between the two of them, and what is feasible, what is needed, and what are the consequences. So one example for me is where the green and digital transformation of us, where the green and digital transformation comes together, is the so-called digital product passport, where the product shall be accompanied with information of the product along the life cycle to the use of different stakeholders as users, recyclers, etc. So this digital product passports can be an important building block for the twin transition if they are designed correctly. So if they're decentralized and sector specific. So we need to make sure that the provisions, informations, the regular ones are reasonable, the information is there and needed, etc. So the what, and then on the how question, how we implement these solutions, we need to have a look what is on the market and used by industry. And for example, in the area of the industrial production industry 4.0, we see great opportunities coming along with such a digital product passport. As ZVI, we developed the so-called asset administration shell, which is basically the technical implementation of the digital twin in industrial production. And this allows to transfer and access data along the supply chain. So this is a flexible and decentral approach, which can be used for the information the legislator wants, but also for new business models through voluntary data sharing or the use of digital operating instructions, etc. And we are showing that this concept is working with our showcase product carbon footprint control cabinet. So that's you can track the product carbon footprint of components along the value chain via this concept of the asset administration shell. And we'll show this at the demonstrator at Hanover Fair in beginning of June. So if we combine the political views and also the technical solutions, innovations being developed by the industry, then I think we create a win-win situation. That's what we really need to achieve this goal of the twin transition.
Justyna, as the digital ambassador in Brussels and the representative of Polish administration, you have slightly different perspective, and you also have the chance to observe legislative processes and different forms of the presence of companies and academic institutions interested in shaping policymakers' opinion. What is done well, and where is space for improvement, in your opinion?
Thank you, Lidia. Good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for inviting me to the interesting discussion. I think there is some burden here for me to carry because I'm the representative of public sector, so my perspective might be quite different indeed, but saying that, I don't think indeed it is. Because in Brussels for the last few years, I've been meeting a lot of interesting people and having a lot of meetings about legislation and non-legislation. And we have a bunch really of great experts, diplomats, people from public sector and private sector and science, policymakers who are really spending every day on trying to shape, let's say, the European digital policy. For the last few years, from my perspective, I think there was a little bit of improvement in this domain, especially as regards how different initiatives are consulted and prepared. I'm of course talking about digital sphere, digital sector. It doesn't have to be the case in other areas. But I remember the days when we started to discuss very important telecom legislation, which was Electronic Communications Code. And we were really expecting from the Commission to prepare the solid ground for the discussion. So about the consultations, I think there is some improvement already, but we are still not there yet. There is a lot of stakeholders that don't have access to the information. Bigger players, smaller players, sectors, specific legislation is taking place every day, and I think there is not enough space to prepare really the discussion. So we need to work more on the channels. How we spread the information, how we include people, how we give them information on everyday basis and receive the feedback, because this is also important element, to have feedback from experts, to have feedback from companies, from academia, from people who are really practitioners, and we need to have it on time, not too late, simply saying. And another element this is what I think Johan already mentioned, this whole approach to better regulation, how we make law, and how we should do it really on everyday basis. There are better and worse times. There are better and worse pieces of legislation. Good examples are on the table, but I think it's still not enough. We need to, I think, raise our call to decision makers, to people who deal with legislation. We need to spend more time on the quality. Speed is important nowadays, very much. Very important, challenging acts are on the table, just to name a few, like, Digital Services Act, everything what is happening around platforms, everything what is happening around AI. This is really timely and needed framework, but we should not forget that we cannot create it without people who are gonna implement it or who are simply doing the business, because it's also a very important element in the European Union. To see how our economy grows. We are talking about 2030 targets. So someone has to deliver. It's the public side, but it's also the private side. It's also the society. And it's also some kind of transition that we expect in our everyday citizens' lives. So everyone is included in this transformation. And without proper channels of communication and preparing the grounds, explaining where we are heading for, why we are doing this, correcting our trajectory, which direction we're going to, in the moment when we are really deciding about different paths to follow, I think this is very needed, and we still have to spend more time on that.
Yes. I think that companies are more or less aware of the situation, because according to the survey conducted by the Lewiatan Confederation, more than 81% of companies surveyed declared that the involvement of the private sector in lobbying in Brussels should be increased. So I will ask for your ideas and reflections on that a bit later, but now I would like to ask Justyna Duszyńska for her opinion on the role of scientists in this ecosystem.
Thank you, Lidia. As you said, I represent Łukasiewicz Research Network, which is Europe's third largest research network. We have more than 1,500 scientists who are involved in many different projects, but also in activity connected with shaping regulatory environment. And we are that part of the scientific community who work to promote business and to support the development of Polish companies. But we operate in line with the science in business model. And we network with business owners and offer solutions which are designed to help them enhance business. But thanks to that, we can merge knowledge and experience that is useful to shape a regulatory environment which is adjusted to future needs and challenges. And I coordinate, in Łukasiewicz, I coordinate digital transformation research group. And all digital issues are close to my activity in Łukasiewicz. And since digital transformation is an ongoing process that challenges existing regulations and creates the need for new regulatory approaches, it is necessary that scientists support legislative process with relevant technology assessment, which allows reviewing technology technology from many different perspectives. Scientists as well as science centers can provide arguments, facts and figures that can match the legislative act with the specific interests of industry and society. And I believe that establishing the research network, as Łukasiewicz is, will enable scientists not only from our network, but to other scientists who we cooperate with to participate in legislative process more actively. Now, as merging resources of 28 institutes, it's easier for us, for our scientists to participate nationally as well as internationally in shaping regulatory environment and influence on final legal solutions. So I think that the role of scientists is crucial, and we are eager to participate in it and to be involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to give the floor to Johan and ask him for his observations from Germany. How does it look in Germany? And I would like also ask for his opinion on involvement of SMEs.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the question. I think what we see that our member companies are really export driven, and therefore the EU being the biggest market, so they're quite aware about the EU legislation, especially regarding the placing of products on the market. So that's not the problem. But I mean, we represent a quite big sector or a specific lead market. So we do have 6 lead markets: industry, energy, health, mobility, building, and consumers. So some sectors are heavily regulated since quite some time under the, I don't know, eco-design, the household appliance, the medical devices are heavily regulated, or for example, the batteries under REACH and ROSE. So they're quite active and they do have their networks. But on the other hand, we see, and that's I think the topic here, that a lot of digital files are coming now. The Cybersecurity Scheme or Cybersecurity Act, the Cyber Resilience Act upcoming, the Digital Governance Act, Digital Markets Act, Digital Service Act, and now the EU Data Act, which will also concern or hit a lot of our companies in the B2B sector. The AI Act, as mentioned before. So there's a lot of regulation in the digital fields, which was not there yet. And I think we need to be aware that there are differences between the B2C and the B2B sector. And we need, therefore, in my opinion, also sector-specific regulations on that. And we also need to create more awareness within our member companies, especially from the B2B sector, which weren't regulated as much as the B2C sector yet. And I think that's the big challenge to get this the information also. And as we also see, there's a big gap between the bigger companies who have the resources for political lobbying and also offices in Berlin or Brussels, and also then the SMEs who can only focus on, or usually focus on, their direct business needs and their impact. And that's, I think, the challenge we have, and that's what I think industry associations also in particular important, because we gather the small and medium-sized companies also, and we can channel this information in the one way and the other way. And I think that's important, but also we need to build up our resources in the digital files, since this is coming in a matter we haven't seen this coming since quite some time.
Yeah. So this is the question to all of you. Do you have ideas how to involve all necessary stakeholders and get all of them on board, including SMEs, academia? What do you think about it? Is anyone interested to comment?
If I may start, maybe, and then I think you will chip in as well. I think there are some first steps, practical steps how to do it better, because the big players are present. They have enormous resources. I think it's already, if I would look at the figures, we have already thousands of lobbyists in Brussels, out of Brussels, people really focusing on, making effort to get the message, to have the message spread and reach the right people. But we're still struggling on one side to include smaller players, but on the other side, not to put too much burden on them, because we want them to develop. So either you're gonna spend hours and read proposals, or you're gonna make business. It's a tough choice. Or you're gonna outsource really this task to other entity and pay for it. It's still no solution here. But the Commission is and I think member states and generally EU institutions they are trying to open channels and create platforms for discussions that we didn't have before. One of the possibilities is to participate in alliances. It's very inclusive formula. I think it started also a few years ago from this digitizing European industry platform 4.0, where there was a platform open for all players to have a say. Of course, it's organized in a proper manner, but it minimizes a little bit the effort for entity to participate. Now we have this different kind of alliances blooming around Europe, the Cloud Alliance, the Microelectronic Alliance. I think it's going to be more and more, but it's still the decision to be taken by every single entity where I want to be, because I cannot be everywhere. You can multiply yourself, but there is some limit how to do it. Another vehicle where the inclusion is I think happening is also this formula of joint undertakings, where there is, of course, we are talking of naturally about bigger entities, but there is some sensitivity that SMEs and other players, important players like academia, should be included. The problem is that this dialogue is not entirely shaped. I think there is no one formula or one window where people can go to and have their interests, presented, but there is many windows. So the opportunity is there. The choice is really which window to choose, which platform to choose. That's why I was talking a little bit about, spreading the information, because if you know that you have 10 opportunities then you can focus on 2 or 3 channels of cooperation. You don't have to be everywhere. And this is what I observe. I'm quite interested really to see and hear how the stakeholders are reacting to that multiplication of channels of cooperation and which way they will choose. But it's something that we did not have, I think, before a few years ago.
Okay, agree.
If I can add something, as Justyna said, big players are in it, and our scientists, for example, do not have such experiences, in taking part in a legislative process, and that's why we try to become a member of alliances, which Justyna mentioned, or international organization where we can present our opinion, our stance, and that's the way how we want to be a part of it, and to enable our scientists to get new experience, and but we also want to show them that it's not only new duties for them, but that there are some advantages of being a part of it, and I think that that's the way to involve them.
Yes, thank you.
I was indeed going to echo what the others have said. I think business alliances, business associations, and Brussels are extremely important for the representation of especially SMEs. In addition to that, I think Justyna, Romanowska, you already mentioned this. I mean, the tools are already there. We have a multiplication of different types of tools now available for the interaction of business with decision makers, and only to look at new tools from the Commission, such as the Futurion platform, to engage on every issue that falls under the EU United States work. We have the multi-stakeholder platforms on various things, such as ICT standardization and so on. And I think this is an important lesson that we're learning from an area that telcos are involved in, which is the field of internet governance. It's international, it's multi-stakeholder, and everyone must be involved. Another element I would add, and I think it's when it comes to the representation of scientific communities and business communities, I think they need to be involved in the whole process. And this is perhaps sometimes a risk when legislation starts to pick up momentum and goes very fast. Perhaps the only avenue of consultation is at the beginning of the process. Throughout the whole process, there needs to be constant dialogue. And I look even at for example, the trilogue procedures can remain still quite opaque. I think it's extremely important that the doors of the rapporteurs, the doors of the MEPs and of the member states in the Council and the Commission remain open for that ongoing dialogue and exchange of information. This is an extremely important principle.
Yeah, I can also just add on that, but I want to also highlight the role of the associations, because I think this is really important to represent also the SMEs, because they don't have the capacity to monitor all the relevant files on EU and then also on national level. That's what comes on top. At least the German government is also quite active here. So I think therefore it's really important, and one of our main tasks as an industry association to create awareness on the upcoming legislative proposals. We present them in a comprehensible manner to our members, then we gather the feedback, and then also we give consolidated feedback to the regulator, which is also then an important channel then. And what we often do is also we invite the policymakers in our working groups so that they have the direct contact also to the member companies, to the practitioners. And if we have meetings with the members of Parliament, Commission, etc., we also take the members with us. So and I think there it also helps that we can do that virtually, in the meanwhile, since the Corona or COVID stuff happened, because this saves some time also for the guys in the companies. So I think it's important that we provide a platform also of information and interaction for our members, and we monitor and give them some advice, what's relevant, what's not relevant, and where to engage. And because it's also a lot of them don't know the legislative processes by heart, so we need to really channel where to put the effort. I think it helps the SMEs, but it also helps the politics and regulators there.
Yes, so it seems that we have some tools. Big companies are there, and what we need now is knowledge and skills necessary for SMEs and researchers to get involved. This is how I understand what you said, and what can be a conclusion, one of conclusions from our discussions for further actions that should be taken to create more inclusive environment. What appeared in a comment of Justyna Romanowska was appropriate technology assessment. So I would like to come back for a while to Justyna Duszyńska and ask her on her experience from her collaboration with different research institutes and different researchers.
Mm-hmm. I'm happy that we touch also this aspect of shaping regulatory environment, because I think that these aspects are also very, very crucial, because technology progress always arouses controversy, yes, and controversies come from insecurity, socio-political consequences, different visions of social development. As an example, we can give the last discussion, which was in European Parliament regarding the use of AI face recognition, where member states didn't agree whether to restrict or ban it. And science, of course, can't give straight answer to this kind of question. What it can, however, is to deeply analyze where different perspectives come from, which is what technology assessment does, yes, to show advantages and disadvantages. And to increase social confidence in technology, we just can't announce that it's trustworthy. We have to actually make it worth people's trust, yes. And that is an approach that the EU took, for example, with artificial intelligence. Ethic guidelines for trustworthy AI create a framework of analysis of artificial intelligence systems, and the objective of this framework is to assess the level of trustworthiness of an AI model, and it is based on 3 principles. Yes, it should be lawful, ethical, and robust. And in Łukasiewicz Research Network, we place a great pressure to emphasize the ethical and social aspect of technology. And I represent one of Łukasiewicz institutes, which is Center for Technology Assessment. And we work with public institutions, private companies, and also with non-governmental organizations. And we provide them with expert knowledge about the effects of introducing new technologies. And by doing this, we want to support citizens, public administration too, and business in their decision-making. And thanks to that, we strive to limit risks and increase the benefits of technology development on one side to society and on the other side to the economy. And we also support other institutes from Łukasiewicz in projects, and we usually add to them the social and ethical perspective of implementation of technical solutions. So that's usually the contribution from my center. So I think these ethical and social aspects of implementation of new solutions are very crucial.
Okay, thank you very much. And because our today's meeting is approaching its end, but I have one question, and I would like to refer to very important context, which is unavoidable, and it is Russian aggression in Ukraine. I would like to ask you for your opinion, which gaps are the most important in the context of the new geopolitical order we will face now, and what should be taken into consideration, and what will change, if you could share your opinion on that. Who would like to start? I know that it's probably a difficult question, and there is no answers ready, but maybe we will try. Johan?
I can try to give a first answer. I think what we saw the last couple of years is also a policy shift already in Brussels, which is now fastened by the recent developments, the Russian aggression in Ukraine. But the EU, they don't focus solely on the competition on the internal market anymore, but rather also on the competition with other regions in the world, which is absolutely right from our point of view. I think we need what we need is a global level playing field when we want to reach the objective of boosting the industrial capabilities here and enabling Europe to remain the continent at the forefront of the industrial digitization. So I think we see this in the European standardization strategy, which was published beginning of February. We see this in the EU Chips Act. But I think we need a clear understanding of the terms like technological sovereignty, industrial resilience, European competences, because I think they aim at different levels. So, for example, technological sovereignty, for us, it aims at the political level. We need to protect the well-defined system critical infrastructures, and we need the competences to control the risks associated with the use of certain technologies. But we must not understand this as autarky or fully independence from other regions. And on the company level, I think companies should really prepare for unexpected events and develop ways of managing permanent risks by dual sourcing strategies, etc. So this is the industrial resilience, which is another layer, and I think which is really important, what we touched upon earlier, it's the European competences. So that's a shared effort between politics and also private sector to upgrade the digital skills, and also the investment in strategic value creation networks. So we need to have a look what is important for us. And I think these are the key elements in our point of view to address the challenges coming along with the current situation. And to be honest, maybe there's more to come in the future. We look at towards China and Taiwan, for example, in the microelectronics sector. So I think to put it in a nutshell, I think we need to stay open as Europe, but we need to be aware and also competent in the key technologies.
Thank you. Justyna?
Yes, Lidia, I think you posed a very, the question is like a spot-on question right now. And just to tell you maybe in advance that it's been addressed on the highest political levels in Brussels and in every member state. And since we are now under French presidency on the 7th and 8th of March, the digital ministers are meeting in France to discuss these aspects among any others, but indeed the hybrid warfare, open and safe internet in terms of cybersecurity, the infrastructure, network capabilities, and how to address that potential risks. And this what is happening on Ukraine, but also what might happen in the coming future days, weeks, who knows. But generally, it's a very far-reaching discussion how to be ready for unexpected events. First, it was COVID. Now it's a war conflict, a war zone that we are talking about here. Who knows what the future might bring, in a few days or years. But generally, there is this need, I think, an expectation that our operational capabilities will increase. Operational in terms, of how administration works, how Brussels reacts on different unexpected events, how institutions, member states, Council, European Parliament, Commission reacts, that there are some people really who will address very important and crucial, I think, situations that it's probably our role, of course, high-level political resolution to be adopted and listen to in public hearing, listen to this, what is happening around us, but also to take more tangible actions, I think. This is that kind of expectation. And this what we are struggling with in EU is great amount of disinformation happening right now in every member state, but also, in European media. So there is also a lot, I think, actions taken individually in a coordinated way among member states, by the Commission, by different task force and people who are doing it on everyday basis, even in European External Action Service. But no one was ready really to do it so fast and to do it today. And we still have this global context mentioned already by Johan. It's very, I think, needed. In terms of digital, of course, this is what I'm still, going around. But we have this idea, vision of global gateway, how EU really interacts with the rest of the world, where are our like-minded countries, how we can help each other in terms of crisis, how we can help each other economically, but also in critical situation. And I think it's very appreciated. This is what is happening right now in Brussels and in member states, that the stakeholders are having their say about the situation. They are presenting their, it's some kind of letter, let's say, or statement, but they are presenting their ideas on the political level, so they address the situation, but they are also ready to cooperate and to help on very practical level, and they offer simply their capabilities, human resources, financial resources to react. And it did not happen before in such a big scale that all the stakeholders are really very active and putting everything they have on the table and asking decision makers, really, how can we help? How can we cooperate better? How can we communicate better? What kind of help is needed right now? Tell us, and simply we will do it. So I think this is some kind of new quality of cooperation that we are observing, and I think we should keep on doing that.
Thank you, Justyna. Your comment was absolutely excellent summary of our today's discussion, because we see that we are opening a new chapter and there is a lot of new challenges appearing in this context. So I'd like to say thank you to all of you for your excellent contribution, for excellent discussion, and I hope that this is the beginning of further collaboration in the process of spreading information, exchanging ideas, and educating all interested stakeholders how to be involved in legislative processes in Brussels. Thank you.